This video is in response to the recent death of Robin Williams, one of my heroes and an inspiration for me ever since I was a little kid. Um, he's one of the main reasons why I wanted to go into acting and performing and comedy and all of that. And his death has been related to suicide, and and that's due to his depression. Um, and I thought that because of this, and the best way that I can honor somebody that I care about, um, and that meant so much to me, uh, even though never knew him, uh, was to open up about my own struggles. And this isn't as an attempt for pity or anything like that. It's more of it's more of a way for me to be open and to set an example uh, for people to be open about their struggles. And I don't know. I think that depression is deadly, and it thrives on silence, and it thrives on uh, being disconnected and being alone. So if we can all just be honest and open about what we're feeling and the struggles we're going through, then I think that we would have a lot less um, people dying of suicide. My family's been personally affected by it. I've had an uncle. I never knew him because he died. He killed himself when he was young. He was in his 20s, or no, he was 19, I think. But he was very, very young, and it was tragic to my family, and my mother's family still reels from the pain of that incident. Uh, but I've been struggling with depression since for a long time. I think I definitely remember feeling the pangs, the just that sensation of depression since I was in middle school, around sixth grade when I was 11, 12. I was going through a major transition, just moving down to Florida, new place, and my grandfather was dying. Just starting middle school. It was a very weird time for me, and I started to really feel alone. And and middle school is tough for anybody, and I think that's really when kids start to uh, that's when human beings start to really experience their first trials. Um, Hopefully, you hope that as little kids, little kids don't have to face a lot of these things, but it's normally in middle school that we become more affected by that. And then this sort of carried on to high school, and I really the way that I dealt with my depression in high school and even a bit in middle school was that I was busy. I did a lot of things. I joined the theater. I did a lot of after school work. I did just any way I could be active, a lot of service and stuff. And a lot of this was because I enjoyed it, so that helped me. And a lot of it was also because if I was moving and if I was active and if I was doing things, then I wasn't alone and in silence to hear and to feel my depressive thoughts, to go through that. And and I let this keep going on. I sort of denied the fact that I really had depression, that I didn't really need that I needed to deal with it. I thought as soon as I had this wishful thinking, as soon as college came, as soon as I was in another state or in another a place, another school, then everything would be better. And I later graduated and went to college, and things were great and things were good, but they definitely weren't better. And to a certain extent, they things got worse. Um, I felt very alone. I was in a sort of a, my school, St. John's, is a big school. It's a private school, but it's got a pretty large student population, at least from what I was used to. And I was completely, I just felt completely lost. Luckily, I found theater and I found a group of people that I could express myself with, and that made things better. But I was slowly kind of losing. I didn't have a family structure around me because I was away from them, and I lost a lot of friends, and I was really trying to find myself. And in doing so, I lost a lot of the support I had, and I was no longer, I lost a lot of the work that I was doing in Florida, and things were just not great. So I was slowly slipping into these depressive feelings, and really it was taking control of my life to a point where it was affecting my grades. And then that summer, I sought help. I got counseling. I didn't want to take medication, but I got counseling, and that was okay. I did that for the summer, and then I don't think I was making good progress, um, and I was really anxious to just get back to school. And so I got back to school and I continued therapy, but things weren't really getting addressed for me, and I didn't have the good coping mechanisms, and I wasn't addressing the chemical problem within my brain. I wasn't taking medication. I wasn't doing those things. And I really wasn't changing my life in any way. I was just expecting to go into therapy, talk about my problems, and be done with it. I wasn't making the changes that I needed to. And so I was starting to slip, and I was having very depressive thoughts, and having suicidal ideations. Really thinking about and planning things. How I would end my life, especially as things got worse. It was this vicious cycle of not feeling well, so not performing well in school, and not performing well in school made me not feel well and made me depressed and anxious and guilty, and the social stuff was helping, but that started to like um, uh, lose its appeal to me, and theater has always been a peace and a safe haven for me, and theater kept me alive, and I'm really happy for that. Unfortunately, my grades really tanked, and I didn't even register for classes, and I went home that winter break for that, and I completely lied about how I was doing in school. I fabricated things. I made sure that my family never found out. And then I don't know what I was thinking, but I just faked it. I was just gonna fake it until I made it, and I finally I got back on a plane to go back for the spring semester in January. And in January, when I got there, I realized that I couldn't get into my dorm because I hadn't registered for classes. And so I had to I was trying to do all these things. I was, trying to make everything work, trying to tell my parents, oh, I don't know why it doesn't say that my classes are registered. I was trying to see if I could stay with people for that night until I finally got things registered. And then my parents, somehow I forget, but my brother went onto my school account to try to help me, and then he saw my grades and he realized what's going on, and I broke down crying and just wanted to hurt myself so badly. I wanted to throw myself in front of a train, um, and I thought I would. Um, just broke down in tears right in the middle of the lobby of my dormitory, and at that moment they got a ticket for me. Immediately the night I flew into New York, and then like a couple hours later I was already flying back to Florida. And my brother stayed with me on the phone with me the whole way to the airport and everything to make sure that I wasn't hurting myself, because I think I might have if I didn't. Um, so I spent this I had a medical leave of absence. I spent that semester getting better, and I lost out on a lot of stuff in school, and I lost pace, and Um, but I was trying to get better, but I was still so anxious about getting back to school and making things work and returning to some kind of normalcy. And but I was getting good counseling. I was finally on medication, and that helped things immensely. And I returned that fall, uh, and had a great first semester, though I didn't seek counseling again, and I was a little iffy on my medication, and things started to get back to the way they were before all the progress I made. And I really, once again, wasn't making the changes in my life that I needed to. I was just kind of going through the motions and trying to make the best of it. And my best wasn't good enough. And I was starting to really lose faith in things. I was really feeling negative about people in my life and doubting friendships, and even I was losing my love of the theater, my one sort of foundation in life other than my family, the thing that made brought me peace, the thing that kept me sane through the other years, that was being taken away from me by my own depression. And I was losing it because I felt very negatively towards it for different reasons. um, and some of the stuff was out of my control, and I just kept facing disappointment after disappointment that next semester. I was so positive. I mean, I had a great year, a great fall semester, and then the spring semester things just kind of, I started with a good amount of speed, but I had no counseling. I was not doing well with the medication. It wasn't working for me. I was misusing it. I was also starting to abuse alcohol a little bit. Not in an addictive way, but definitely using it to sort of self-medicate, which wasn't good. And I think I was drinking a little bit too much, drinking in my dorm room. Um, I don't think there's anything wrong with alcohol, and I really do enjoy a good drink, but I was taking it to an extent that I shouldn't have. And it got to the point where like my dog. I got to a point where I was just completely failing, completely out of it. I wasn't even going to theater things. I wasn't going to school. I was holding myself up in my room, uh, putting on an act for some friends and stuff like that. And the whole time, I was seriously planning my death, planning my suicide. Um, I stuck through it because I felt that I had unfinished business, that I had to get things done. Um, so by the end of the year, so that I could feel like there was some sort of sort of loose ends were tied up, so that um, so that I could make the decision to end my life. I wasn't being honest with my family, with my friends. Um, I was in such a emotional prison, and I was just counting down the days. I had it all planned out. I was gonna do it with one of the last days of school, um, and on the day that, and part of me is really angry about it because it was so selfish to my friends and to my family. At least that's what I was feeling, and sometimes I do feel those pains of guilt. And on in May, uh, on my last day of school, when my dad was flying up, I I swallowed a bunch of pills. Um, I wasn't even thinking it through in terms of like I didn't. I was gonna chase it with alcohol and make it more effective to really mess with the medication, and it wasn't. It was just store bought stuff actually, but I wasn't. I didn't even know like how well it would work. I just kind of I knew I was. I knew it could be fatal. I was really hoping, I thought, with the alcohol. Um, right before I chased it with the alcohol, I just like a handful of, I don't know, Tylenol or something, uh, and was just like a whole bottle full almost. And I I was going through my phone and seeing, considering if I needed to leave some sort of stupid message or something or note. And I was looking at through pictures, and I saw a picture of my newly born um, nephew, and I just I'd never met him. He was born while I was in school, and I wanted to live for him, and I realized that the cruelty I with that whole pattern in my family, that whole thing in my family of losing an uncle to suicide before you even met him or know him, I, I wanted to end that pattern. I didn't want to continue that, and I thought about how cruel it would be to do this to my family. I didn't care about my own life. I didn't care about myself or keeping myself alive or anything like that. I just didn't want to hurt people, and so I don't know. I wasn't. I was kind of like in a trance. I don't know. I called my mother just for some reason, and I told her what I did. Um, uh, I She was just frightened and was freaking out. I don't know why I did that in retrospect. I feel like I could have just waited, but I don't know. It's hard to really know what the right thing is to do in that situation. And I stuck my finger down my throat and I threw up the pills. They hadn't been in my system long, so that I could see the pills coming up, and didn't really have any food in my stomach. So I just did it until I felt like there was nothing left, and then I went to my um, to my dorm security desk, told them what happened. They had me sit down. Um, Emergency. They called emergency. They had NYPD and EMTs over. They were asking me questions and checking me out and trying to find out, if I was, what was going on. And while this was all happening, my best friend saw me in the lobby going through all of this, and I immediately just broke down in tears. I hadn't cried up until that point. I just bawled and I couldn't stop. And but she was a comfort to be there, and she hugged me and she made me feel like things were going to be better, and I'm so thankful to her for that. And she she walked with me into the. They put me on a stretcher, and I was so upset that I collapsed, like of just anxiety. Just I don't know. It was they brought me on into the stretcher, into the ambulance. She walked me on there. I told her to go to class, um, and she told a couple of other close friends what was happening. They brought me to the hospital. They did all of the detox. They made sure that I had everything out of my system. They did blood screens. They had me on IV. They had me drink this charcoal mixture, and it, it was terrible. And my father, who was flying in that day, he found out, and he rushed right to the hospital and sat sat by my bedside. Um, they had me monitored. My friends were there that the whole night. My best friend and my two other best friends, and they, I wish it could have been under better circumstances, but I was glad to see them. And uh, I was later checked into a psychiatric hospital in New York, where I spent a few days. I don't know. It was like I can't even think about it right now. I'm guessing it was somewhere around a week or so. I don't know, 10 days. I'm not even sure. My mind's kind of that whole point period of my life is kind of a blur. It was very robotic, and I just remember being checked into this hospital and in my gown and this, and they brought in some clothes for me. My mom finally flew up. She was a wreck, and I just remember, they brought clothes for me, and they brought these athletic shorts, and the hospital had to like cut out the string so I wouldn't hang myself, and so I'm getting better though. I mean, I've checked out of the hospital. I've been using this time I'm on different medication. I'm on better medication. I'm started the counseling again. I'm doing so well and working out. I'm trying to do things in my life that are taking control of my life again and actually making the changes instead of just complaining about the problems. And I, like I said, I don't want people to feel sorry for me because of this. I don't want people to um, treat me differently because of this. I just want people to break the silence of their own pain, to be honest with what they're going through, because it's in that silence, it's in that secrecy that the depression and the anxiety and the fear and the guilt just festers and grows. And if I honestly feel that if more people were open and honest about what they were going through, we would have less tragic deaths. And I was just lucky that um, I don't know. There was just still this glimmer of hope within me, I guess, to live. I'm lucky that I went through that I experienced that glimmer of hope instead of going through this with the suicide and making terrible decisions and never seeing my family again and my friends. So if you are going through depression, if you are going through hurt, internal hurt and anxiety, know that it is never the end of the world. There are so many more people that go through what you're going through, and that you can conquer this, that you can make a change in your life. And just maintain hope. Whatever you find hope in, grab onto it, hold on to it, and do not let go. And please be honest and talk about your feelings. Open up, write a letter, make a video, do something to that shares what you're feeling so that you do not have to feel it alone, so that you can face that fear and that anger and that despair, and you do not become a statistic. You don't become the casualty of your own fear. All right, guys, I think that's it. Um, just I hope everybody has a good one, and peace.